Welcome to the Drill Down In-Depth Answers to Oilfield Questions. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears.
Richard, good to see you again. Do you have something for us this week?
I do. I was thinking about the oil field.
Yes.
And about what's going to happen in the second quarter.
Right.
Because
okay.
if you were watching us on our YouTube channel right now, or watching this podcast,
Yes.
you would see that I'm wearing my vest that's
Yes.
with Fellowship for Performing Arts.
Yes.
And what does FBA do? We put on what?
Plays,
Plays
yes.
all over the country.
Yes, right.
And in a good year, we'll sell 70,000 tickets.
But you
of
haven't
Broadway
been,
plays.
Right, but you haven't been putting on plays because no one's been going to plays.
Because things are closed. So as I'm predicting what ticket sales are going to be for FBA in the second quarter, I know the answer. It's zero. Because the shows aren't open.
But the prospect is out there, right?
Yeah, the prospect is going to be out there.
Yes.
But when I think about the other job that I have, which is the oil field,
Right.
I'm thinking about the second quarter.
Okay.
And I thought it would be useful that for the podcast today, we talk about 4 oil field trends for the second quarter of 2021.
Short term it is, yes. Okay.
Yeah, now you can stretch it out for the year, but I'm going, look, the service we provide our clients is looking at tomorrow.
Right, yeah.
Not correctly interpreting yesterday.
Okay, gotcha.
So this is four things. Are you ready?
Let's hear it, yes.
All right. Thing one.
Right.
For the second quarter, trend for that quarter.
Yes.
Shortages.
Shortages, yes. We spoke about this a little bit last week regarding frac sand, but as activity picks up, and we know that the supply chain guys are, run down pretty low. So wouldn't be surprised, right?
Yeah. So and 3 things come into play whenever you're talking about shortages.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter if it's sand or friction reducer or whatever. It's these things that the service companies emptied their shelves of inventory over the last year, and they converted that inventory into cash.
Right. Yeah.
So they collapsed their working capital. They got cash out of their inventories. So their shelves
completely understand.
are empty. Second thing, the people that they did keep, they're working their tails off.
Yeah.
And so as demand for those services or products rises, those people they currently have just don't have any more capacity to grow.
Oh, I see. If it's a manufacturing operation, something like that, for example, right? Bring it back
or
on.
hammer and iron together on a frac job.
Okay.
I got to go get more people.
Okay.
So that's the second component. And the other part is that factories and sand mines and trucking companies just simply can't build capacity in advance of an order coming.
Right. What's the incentive today?
That's right. Because I got a hoard. I don't have a lot of cash. You prove to me you're going to order something from me, and then I'm going to go build that capacity.
And I think there's a general thing too, and that is the fact that the logistics, just moving things around in this country has gotten a lot tougher. Again, it's due to cutbacks and any number of reasons, but I think just getting things from A to B takes a little bit longer, and that alone is going to tell you that there's going to be some shortages emerge just as we wait for the truck to show up. So
it's impossible to figure out what the shortages are going to be because shortage will happen, it'll get resolved. New shortage happens, it'll get resolved. But we're already having it. Q2 is going to have more of it. It'll happen throughout 2021.
Okay.
All right. Thing 2.
Yes.
Restructurings.
Okay, of oil
companies and oil field service companies of all types, because even though there's the general sentiment that a lot of the balance sheets got restructured prior to year's end 2020.
Exactly, bankruptcy, emerging from bankruptcy, and so forth.
Those are kind of the bigger companies.
Right.
There's a bunch of littler companies that have kind of kicked the can down the road for as long as they could.
Right.
Maybe a miracle will happen. Maybe oil will go to 90 and it'll solve all the problems.
Sure.
There's still some restructurings to happen. There's a longer tail there. And so Q2, you'll hear word of additional restructurings, bankruptcies, whatever.
I gotcha. And that would be both oil companies as well as oil service firms.
Yeah, it's not done.
It's not done.
It's largely done, but it's not done yet. And so even as activity rises, there'll be news of bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting dichotomy, won't there? Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is as demand for services rises, and you don't have any cash.
Right. Yeah. Now what do I do?
What do you do?
I'd love to come, but sorry.
Yeah, I can't buy the diesel fuel for the truck because I use that on hiring a guy. So that's the next thing.
Sure.
Here's the third thing.
Yeah.
Bifurcation. Now, what does bifurcation mean?
Well, that means to me you have a bimodal distribution of your
and
market.
what does that mean?
You've got two separate parts of a whole. I guess that's the thing, right?
Yeah. So
they're divided.
So take this for example. You've got oil field service companies.
Yes.
And you've got some global companies.
Right.
You've got some solely international service companies, and you got some that are strictly U.S.
Yep. Okay.
U.S. land.
Yep.
Take, for example, ProPetro. They're not just U.S. land; they're just Permian Basin. I mean,
right.
that defines their world.
Okay.
And yet, you flip over and you take sort of the other end of the spectrum, Schlumberger.
Sure.
They've been getting out of U.S. land, and they're largely an international and offshore service company at this point.
Okay, I'm with you.
And a lithium mine in Nevada.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So bifurcation. you're talking about
Bifurcation
is-
being this.
Uh-huh.
In a couple weeks,
Yes.
the quarter will end.
Yes.
And in a couple weeks after that, earnings reports will start coming out.
And so you're thinking that there will be two very different stories that
Yep.
we'll begin to hear. We'll hear as a result of that. One is a much better and improving North American market, and an international market that is
Languish.
bumping along. Right?
Feels like it's languishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I'll stick my neck out and say there's going to be some service companies who are U.S. land focused, who when they report Q1 earnings, that their top line numbers will have grown by 20%. And when they finish the second quarter, their top line revenues will have grown by another 20%. And the bottom line will be coming along. But the international companies, things are kind of stuck in the Middle East now. Offshore doesn't move very quick.
Right. So the theme I'm thinking of is that this third point here is embodied by the movie To Have and To Have Not. Right. Whereas whatever the one about shortages might be waiting for Godot. So there
you can just wait all you want.
Right.
So bifurcation. So I've got shortages.
Yes.
Restructuring, bifurcation. Here's the new one. I have not spent hardly any time on it, but the world of SPACs, the Special Purpose Acquisition Corporation.
We hear a lot about that, not just in the oil patch. There've been hundreds proposed.
In fact, there are hardly any at all in the oil patch.
Right. And there's been talk of bringing this new type of financial institution into the oil patch to buy properties, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Constitute oil companies. Yeah.
So the SPAC has been used. It's been around for a while.
Yes.
But if you take, say, classic private equity, that's been decimated over, especially in the oil field, for a while.
Yeah.
But a SPAC has been used in the world of high technology and in healthcare last year and in currently, get me a green energy kind of a thing. Let's form a SPAC. And so it's a couple $100 million that have been raised and dedicated to
and it's publicly traded, right?
Immediately public, but it doesn't own anything other than this cash commitment.
Gotcha.
And then those folks who run the SPAC, publicly traded, go around and try to find something to buy. And
bring it in,
and raise a little more money and all. It's immediately funded and public. Whereas a private equity firm would have done it in the past, invested in it, grown
and
it,
then
and then done.
So you're thinking
it
we'll
could
see these?
Yeah, there's like 3 out of 300 that are oil or classically oil oriented. So that would be 1%. Not a big trend.
Yeah.
But it's so hot and heavy in other industries.
So the enthusiasm over there may spill over,
may bleed over to it.
Right.
So that would be the fourth. I think that we're seeing in the second quarter of this year.
Yes.
A SPAC or 2 or 3.
I would say that with that, you have to find outfits selling properties, and that will probably continue. That goes to the point about restructuring going on yet. So there's a possibility. Yeah,
it's not a slam dunk at all, but there's going to be something that fits. So I would look for something that falls. And if you're listening to this and you go, "What the heck is this?" Do spend a little time, because the world of
researching SPACs, because
maybe even for your own portfolio, as you look at some other industry that you're going to put your money in,
so
you'll have the opportunity to invest in
SPAC rhymes with frack, so that should appeal to all of us, right?
Wow, diggity dog! But I know that people have been tuned in to the program today.
Yes.
For what reason?
Well, they want to find what the answer was to last week's puzzler. I should mention that 2 weeks ago when we revealed the answer to that puzzler, that allowed us to fact check the Pirates of Penzance. which
We
might be the
did.
first time that sentence has ever been issued in any language. But
Fact check the Pirates of Penzance.
There you go. Right. And so I'm wondering if we can top that
Very
with the answer
picture
to
of
this
a
week's
modern Major General.
That's right. So give us a recap. What was the puzzler?
All right, so the puzzler last week, you can go back and listen, but in super simple terms, there was a Little League baseball team,
Yes.
20 players, and they all went to a party at the end of the season, and the coach made them all throw their ball caps into a single pile.
Right.
And at the end of the party, they all came back outside and put ball caps back on. And the question was, what is the probability
Yes.
that exactly 19 out of 20 would have gotten the right ball cap?
That's exactly right.
And we had, I actually don't know how many answers and right answers that came in, but we have a favorite answer. And this may be our favorite. We've had so many really great answers over the time we've since we've been doing this puzzle. This is first place for my brand new set of answer. And it's, and Brad, I'm going to say your last name wrong, but I'm going to pronounce it Beard. And Brad works here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And here's Brad's answer. I'm going to just read his the majority of his answer.
Gotcha.
It struck close to my heart because what engineering degree do you have?
Industrial.
And what engineering degree did I drop out of?
Industrial engineering.
Exactly. So it's all about sampling and
There you go.
statistics. Here he goes. At first glance, this problem requires a multiplicative mathematical calculation since each successive player must draw his or her hat in succession.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So the first one has 20 choices. The second one has 19 choices.
Yes.
But wait, the answer only requires logic based on the last two players to draw hats.
That's right, because to get it right, the first 18 have to correctly get their hats. So now it comes down to the last two guys.
Player number 19
And number 20.
and player number 20.
Yes.
Why? Because drawing 19 hats requires an 18 beat.
Right.
Okay, so then he says there are two hats left
Yes.
and two players.
Uh-huh.
If the next hat is drawn correctly, the 19th hat.
Then the 20th guy gets it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And likewise, if the next hat, the 19th hat, is drawn incorrectly,
Then the 20th guy doesn't get the right hat either.
so he says, so thus the probability of exactly 19 hats being drawn correctly out of 20 is
0.
there's no chance whatsoever. So that is the answer. There is zero chance that he could do. Now the other thing is, Brad went on. He sent us an addendum to this because
We're still working through the proof, my dad.
well, exactly.
Because-
But Brad built an Excel simulation and he did 1 million replications just to get comfortable with it.
This becomes the new standard for any answer that we solicit
Because-
going forward.
That's right.
Or
So-
should I say no?
No, please don't do it. But if we do a math puzzler,
Yeah.
we do require the Excel spreadsheet to
There
be
you go.
delivered with
That's
it,
right.
so you can fact check it. Anyway, that's going to be it. Next week we'll come out with a brand new, exciting puzzler. Going to be hard to top this answer.
There we go.
But the standard, we have a brand new standard.
Glad to hear that. Well, anyway, thanks so much for listening to The Drill Down. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears.